A great season for the Tennessee Titans, but they got an absolute monster at left tackle in JC Latham. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You could start the second half of the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why JC Latham is proving to be a franchise offensive tackle. We're going to dive into the depths of the special team and turnover problems that have plagued this team, and I'll give you some updates on some Tennessee Titans injury news as well. Before we dive into it, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. On tomorrow's show, it's going to be Crossover Thursday with me and my guy Luke Braun from the Locked On Vikings podcast. Then I'm going to be giving you guys a game plan episode to get you ready for the Tennessee Titans coming back home to play the Vikings. And I'll be live here on the Locked On Titans podcast immediately after the game ends on Sunday to break down all the action. Now, my big point here is I know that the season has not gone well for the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 2-7. It's been ugly. All right. There's no way around it. Not a good football team. Not necessarily the funnest season that we've ever experienced for the Tennessee Titans. But there are some major, major bright spots that I think all Tennessee Titans fans need to consider at this point in the year. You need to give yourself a little bit of optimism. You need to give yourself a little bit of happiness when you look at this football team. I know that not winning football games makes that hard, but for the past 4 seasons, think Andre Dillard last year, Dennis Daly the year before, David Quessenberry, a broken Taylor Lewan at times over the last, 3 to 4 seasons. The Titans have had the worst left tackle play in the entire NFL for multiple years running. It has been a major issue at what most would consider the second, the third most important position in football. Obviously, quarterback is number 1. I would go pass rusher number 2. I would go left tackle number 3, and then wide receiver, and then cornerback. For me, that's my top 5 most important positions on an NFL roster. And for most of these years, the Titans have had a disaster. Not only a left tackle that's not great, but a disaster at left tackle. And that is no longer the case anymore. Now, of course, those problems are over on the right tackle spot, which, all of the Titans' offensive line has been bad throughout the last few years at different times. But now the Titans do appear to have a franchise left tackle in the fold in JC Latham, and that was punctuated by his performance in Week 10, especially with some of his matchups against Joey Bosa. So I'm going to have a JC Latham film breakdown out on Wednesday on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. JC Latham bullied Nick Bosa for most of this game. There wasn't a single moment in this game where Joey Bosa was able to get over on JC Latham. It did not happen. So a primetime matchup for the rookie left tackle, and he dominated that. He dominated overall in this game against the Los Angeles Chargers. In Week 10 against the Chargers, JC Latham had an 87.2 pass blocking grade. That was the 5th best pass blocking grade per Pro Football Focus in the entire NFL of any offensive lineman of any position for the entire week. Top 5. If you look at just offensive tackles, it was the 2nd best performance among offensive tackles. So an elite performance. Again, anything Pro Football Focus that's above like an 85 is an elite performance. All right. So JC Latham truly had an elite performance, and he did it in the run game as well. He was able to move some guys. I mean, at the end of the day, the Tennessee Titans hit on their first-round draft pick. And with Peter Skoronski, has it been as good as people wanted? Has it been all-pro level guard play? Not consistently. That's the honest truth. All right. But the Titans hit with the first-round pick with Peter Skoronski. He is a good player. He's a starting-level player, whereas Treylon Burks, Caleb Farley, Isaiah Wilson literally are not even worthy of having on the roster. They're not even rosterable NFL players right now. So it's a totally different level of player, Peter Skoronski, compared to Burks, Farley, and Wilson. Even Rashaan Evans. Evans had some okay moments for the Titans before he gave up on him. But as soon as the Titans got rid of Rashaan Evans, he basically hasn't been able to stay in the NFL. He's barely a rosterable player. Peter Skoronski is not that. And now JC Latham. JC Latham is not only going to be a starter in the NFL for the next decade, but barring injury, JC Latham is going to be a Pro Bowl level offensive tackle and potentially scrape against an all-pro level offensive tackle. Now, is JC Latham as good as Joe Alt? Probably not. But the Tennessee Titans didn't have the opportunity to draft Joe Alt. So they took the best player they could possibly take in JC Latham, and it has absolutely been a hit. Right now, JC Latham has only allowed 3 sacks, only 21 pressures, and 1 sack came in week 1 against Darrell Taylor, where he also gave up 5 pressures, and he gave up 2 sacks in week 7. So that means out of the 9 games that the Tennessee Titans have played this year, he's only given up sacks in 2 of them. That's 7 games without a single sack allowed. Like, that is a fantastic performance from a rookie who's transitioning from right tackle to left tackle. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that JC Latham has been absolutely perfect. That's absolutely not the case. He still struggles with speed on the edge at times in the pass rush. He can get beat a little bit with the inside counters, but he's improved mightily on beating those inside counters when people try to cross his face. In the run game, JC Latham could be better. All right? That's really where we want to see JC Latham improve. I think he struggled with cut blocks, and it's funny because when he was mic'd up a couple of weeks ago, he even said, I got a cut block. I won on a cut block. I got him on the ground, because he has struggled with his cut blocks, and there were a few against the Chargers that he didn't operate. A cut block is where you just come off the line of scrimmage at the knees of the defensive lineman and try to knock him down. That's mostly backside blocks where the run is going to the opposite side and you just want to cut your man off. JC Latham has struggled a little bit there. There was a play in this game against the Chargers where number 56 for the Chargers, I think it might be Morgan Fox, but he was a backside cut for JC Latham. Latham didn't execute the cut block well enough, and 56 goes down the line of scrimmage and makes the play. Getting up to the second level consistently and understanding his assignment, he looks a little confused that time. But again, he's a rookie. So overall, what an incredible bright spot for the Tennessee Titans. They have a franchise left tackle in JC Latham. But now we do got to talk about probably the 2 worst things with the Tennessee Titans this year, and it's their special teams group and the turnover battle. Before I get into it, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the second half of the NFL action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you place your bets. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Look, Prize Picks makes daily fantasy sports so simple and so much fun. That's why they have over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks, again, because it's so simple. Here's how it works. Prize Picks has a projection for every player Jamar Chase, 79.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, 1.5 touchdown passes. Travis Kelce, 59.5 receiving yards. Saquon Barkley, 79.5 rushing yards. Again, all you do is pick 2 to 6 players and say whether they're going to do more or less than the Prize Picks projection. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Run your game with Prize Picks. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We looked at JC Latham and the franchise left tackle. It's so crazy to me that the Titans have a franchise left tackle that I can barely even say it to you guys. So we talked about that. Now I want to talk about the things that really have plagued this football team more than the O-line, more than the quarterback play, more than the red zone defense, which the red zone defense definitely needs to be involved in the discussion. But it's special teams and turnovers. I'm going to give you guys some injury updates for the Titans at the end of the show. Do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. I do want to tell you, I do have that JC Latham film breakdown video coming out on Wednesday on the Locked On Titans or the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. I did a full 40-minute breakdown with the good and the bad of Will Levis in Week 10 over on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel as well. The link for that channel is down in the description of this podcast. I really hope you guys will check that out. But with that being said, again, the special teams and the turnover battle has been an outright disaster for the Tennessee Titans. Like, it's crazy to me that the Tennessee Titans are as bad as they are, considering how certain things have gone for the Titans. But the reason for that is, the reason that the Titans are 2-7 instead of 3-4 or 4-3 is because of turnovers and special teams. So just to give you a window into how bad it's been for the Tennessee Titans, Timo Risk, a guy who works for Pro Football Focus, put out a graph of some of their analytics of total points gained from special teams. So how many points your special teams units gain you in a game. And the Tennessee Titans are fourth from last. The fourth worst team in the NFL, we'll say that. The Tennessee Titans have lost nearly 30 points this year because of their special teams play. Fourth worst in the NFL. Nearly 30 points. For reference, the Steelers have gained 30 points from their special teams play. And then you look at the turnover battle for the Titans. The Tennessee Titans are second to last in the NFL. They have lost 60 points in the turnover margin. I mean, like the graph that I have put out on Twitter at Tic Tac Titans. You guys can check it out if you want. But the Tennessee Titans are in the bottom left-hand corner, meaning out of teams that have lost a ton of points through special teams and teams who have lost a ton of points out of turnovers, the Titans are the deadliest combination. They're the worst combination in the NFL. I mean, it's despicable. And you look at just special teams on its own. The Tennessee Titans, coming out of Week 10, have now allowed the highest average yards per kick return in the NFL, 38.2 yards per kick return. The Tennessee Titans could kick the ball out of bounds for a penalty on every single kickoff, and it would only make a 2-yard difference based on what they're allowing in kick coverage. Like, Cole Anderson must be fired. I realize at this point it's not going to happen during the season, but there is no way that Cole Anderson could be the Titans special teams coordinator by next season. It cannot happen. They are a disaster on special teams, a disaster. So you look at the special teams, and then you look at the turnovers, the Titans are second to last. They're second worst in the NFL in turnover margin, only better than the Las Vegas Raiders, minus 11. Minus 11 on the turnover margin. Right now, they are the third worst in the NFL, tied for third worst in the NFL with 17 giveaways. 17 giveaways. And that doesn't even count the punt blocks. That doesn't even count the punt blocks, which should probably be counted as a giveaway, right? So, again, I mean, I'm just giving data to drive home things that everyone already knows. The special teams is god-awful. The turnover battle has been a disaster for the Titans. But look at these numbers. It just adds another layer of what the heck is going on, you know? And then you look at the red zone defense, which has also been a major issue. A major issue. Right now, the Tennessee Titans have the seventh worst red zone defense in the NFL. They are giving up touchdowns 64.3% of the time when teams get in the red zone. Now, that is exasperated by the turnovers and by the special teams. Because what happens when you turn over the ball? You give a short field to the offense. Now they don't have to drive an entire length of a field. Now they don't have to be as precise. Now they're already knocking on the door to score. What happens when you give up a ton of special teams, big returns? Well, now you have short fields as well. And now it's easier to get into the red zone. And now it's easier to score. The red zone defense needs to be better. It's been a major issue for the Titans. Again, seventh worst in the NFL. And it's crazy to put more stats into context here. The Tennessee Titans are the worst scoring defense in NFL history that was the number one defense in yardage. The Tennessee Titans are first in the NFL in yards allowed per game, like the best on defense in the NFL in yards per game and pass yards allowed per game. The Titans have the best passing defense in the entire NFL. They have the best yardage defense in the NFL, but out of teams that have hit those marks in NFL history, the Titans give up the most points of any of those defenses. They are a historically bad scoring defense when you take into account their yardage totals. And why is that? Again, special teams, turnovers, red zone defense. This team is not as bad as 2-7 says. Even with Will Levis playing terrible at the beginning of the year, even with the special teams, even with everything, this team should be so much better than it is. But because of those three problems, turnovers, special teams, red zone defense, the Titans look like one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. It's crazy. It's actually crazy how, I don't want to say it's bad luck because these things maybe aren't luck-based, but you know, it's just terrible luck. This stuff does not happen to teams with this good of a defense. And the Titans' offense has been much better than it would seem as well with the way that they've moved up and down. The Chargers are a great defense, and the Titans were able to move up and down the field on them. The Lions are a great team. The Titans were able to move up and down the field on them. So the offense is getting better, but with those three factors continually holding the team down, it's going to be hard for people to see through the problems to see the good that the Titans are actually putting out there. But with that being said, we got some injury updates on three players for the Tennessee Titans. Going to talk about those injuries and what it means for the Titans based on the news that we heard. Before we continue, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Pro Football GM app. Titans fans, remember our great partner, the Ultimate Pro Football GM? They're back, and they've added an even more amazing new game mode that I have to tell you about. The game that lets you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a new head coach career mode. So on top of being able to build your dynasty, now you also get to call offensive plays during the game as well. They have new tools, and of course, the game is so fun. and so realistic, and it's gotten even better. You probably already have it installed, so make sure to do an update. If you don't, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. The Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads. It's 100% playable offline as well, and Locked On Titans fans get a special offer. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL in all caps inside the game store, and you're going to receive a free boost to kickstart your franchise and to help you create your dynasty. Download the game right now by visiting ultimate-gm.com or just look it up in your app store. It's the Ultimate Pro Football GM app. Start your dynasty today. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about JC Latham being a franchise left tackle for this team. We talked about just how historically bad some of the Titans' turnover, special teams, and red zone defense problems have been. But now I want to give some news for the week moving forward. We're starting our transition to move forward. Tomorrow will be Crossover Thursday with Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. I'll have my game plan episode out for you guys after that, and then I'll be live here after the game ends on Sunday. But let's look at some of these injuries. Thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL. I also am the lead host of Locked On NFL for the Locked On Podcast Network. I would appreciate your guys' support over there if you would get subscribed on whatever platform you do check out the Locked On Titans podcast. But with that being said, update on L'Jarius Sneed. So L'Jarius Sneed apparently had some sort of crazy quad issue. It was not only a quad bruise, like a bruise on his thigh, but it was also a quad strain. And it turns out that the bruise of his quad was actually more crazy than the strain of his quad. So Brian Callahan still called him week to week. I mean, at this point, will L'Jarius Sneed even come back this season? I think it's up in question. I mean, with, 8 games left, you would think that he would come back at some point. But, I mean, if the Titans continue to lose, they play the Vikings this week, they may just shut him down for the rest of the year. Protect the asset. We saw that happen with Jeffrey Simmons last year. Maybe that happens with Sneed here. But, again, a really crazy injury. And how about that look? L'Jarius Sneed never misses any time in Kansas City, comes to Tennessee, and is out half a season. I'm sorry, guys. We just can't make this up. We just can't make it up. Treylon Burks, dealing with a knee injury. He's been on IR for quite some time. Hurt in practice. Great luck. But Brian Callahan said that Treylon Burks is not close. And honestly, I don't even care. I don't care. I'd rather see NWI. I'd rather see Bryce Oliver. I'd rather see Jaquan Jackson. Throw it to Calvin Ridley more. Treylon Burks is done. I said it before the season, and some people continue to hold out hope, and I don't know why you guys do this to yourselves. When people tell you who they are, you got to believe them. And Treylon Burks is not a good player. He's not somebody who's going to be able to stay healthy because he has terrible balance issues. He has zero body control. He is too big for what his body thinks that he is. It's like a baby deer, They're longer than they think. They can't keep their balance. That's what Treylon Burks is all the time, okay? He's never going to be the player that people hope that he would be. And yes, the A.J. Brown trade was an all-time historic disaster. And Treylon Burks is never going to be able to fix that, ever. So, in my opinion, trade Treylon Burks in the offseason. Cut him from the team. It's the final year of his contract. I don't care, but I never want to see Treylon Burks on this football team ever again. I don't care if he comes back this year. I'd rather watch other people play. That's how I feel about that. So he isn't close. Who gives a crap? That's how I feel about that. And then finally, some good news. Want to finish with some good news. Chido Awuzie is close, according to Brian Callahan. He said he's getting closer. Hopefully the Titans get Chido back. Look, Darrell Baker has filled in admirably. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., watching him play, he's had his up and down moments as a rookie, but he's been solid nonetheless. Again, the Titans have the number one pass defense in the NFL, and for pretty much the entire season, they've been using multiple backup cornerbacks. Denard Wilson, man. He's a pass game savant. It's the truth. But I still would like to see Chido get back out on the field, replace Darrell Baker, so you have at least one cornerback who you think, is good. Okay? One veteran cornerback who you can count on. And Chido needs to earn this money a little bit. He had injuries before the season, got injured during the season. He just needs to create some positive momentum with this defense going forward. But again, I'm going to be back with you guys tomorrow for Crossover Thursday with Locked On Vikings. My JC Latham film video is going to be out on Wednesday. My Will Levis film breakdown, 40 minutes. Get your snacks ready, pour yourself a drink, and take on the full 40-minute breakdown of the good and the bad of Will Levis. Again, I would appreciate your guys' support in that. The link for the Tic Tac Titans film channel is down below in the description of this podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening to the audio version. And again, a reminder to all you guys who do watch on YouTube, you're out and about, check out the Locked On Titans podcast, the audio version. I mean, you don't get to see my beautiful face for 30 minutes, but you got your Titans podcast on the go whenever you need it. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Throw a thumbs up on the video, tighten up down in the chat. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.